Tell us a story, Ranger Chet.
Oh, okay. I could tell you about the time I locked eyes with Sasquatch, or about my brush with the elusive Chupacabra. Then there was that encounter with the Mothman.
Yeah, tell us about the Mothman.
Of course, I once saw a lake monster and a sea monster on the same day.
Wow!
That's not even taking all the ghosts, aliens, and UFOs into account.
You've seen all that as a park ranger?
No, son. Those are the creatures I've encountered in my cryptid crate.
What's a cryptid crate?
Cryptid Crate is a monthly subscription box that arrives on your doorstep each and every month. It's filled with various cryptozoology and paranormal themed items such as t-shirts, hats, art, media, and other collectibles.
I want a cryptid crate. Yeah, I want one too.
You can get yours by visiting www.cryptidcrate.com. Sign up is quick and easy, and shipping is always free. I can't wait to get my Cryptid Crate, but for now, how about that story?
Hello and welcome to Unexplained Reality, the podcast about the strange and unexplained but real. Please send us your encounters and experiences in that email at unexplained.reality@yahoo.com and follow us on Twitter and das Instagram. Also come join us at our Facebook group. If you would like to donate to the show, we are on Patreon und das PayPal. Dankeschön. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Unexplained Reality. I am one of your hosts, Brian Quinn, and with me is my son,
Harrison Quinn.
Hope everybody's having a good week. We are so far. Harrison's on the countdown to reality coming back for Sucker Punch in about 2 weeks.
Yep.
So as usual, if you want to reach out to us for an encounter or an experience, or just tell us what you think, you can reach us at unexplained.reality@yahoo.com. You can hit us on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. Speaking of Facebook, we are transitioning from the Facebook page to a Facebook group, so you can just come send us a request to join, and we'll gladly add you. We also had a YouTube channel where all our stuff is being uploaded to that also, so you can listen there or on your favorite podcatcher or on iTunes. And if you do listen to it, wherever you listen to it, just rate us, review us. That'd be great. It helps bump us up the rankings and make us more visible to new people, new listeners. Subscribe to us so you automatically get the downloads, or at least the notifications that a new show's ready whenever we drop it. If you feel like donating and helping out the podcast, you can do that through patreon.com or PayPal. And if you do it in PayPal, if you send money that way, just use unexplained.reality@yahoo.com as our address. And all these links will be in our show notes, so you can click on them and stuff. So, I don't think I have a few news articles. You have anything you want to talk about, buddy? Before we get started? Okay. Well, let me go right into the news, because it's going to be a decent show tonight, because it's I got a lot of stuff. Our subject matter's pretty long tonight, but this one comes from Phantoms and Monsters, and this is another crazy Chicago sighting. So I don't know what's going on up there. A lot of crazy stuff with Mothman sightings and gargoyles and kind of weird stuff. But the encounter took place in the playground area of the Indian Boundary Park in Bolingbrook, Illinois, a southwest suburb of Chicago. The witness states that she has a normal routine of walking in the park at night. On Wednesday, August 2nd, 2017, at approximately 10:30 p.m. Central Time, which is their local time, the witness, who wishes to remain anonymous in the report since she resides in a tight-knit community, was in the playground area of the park when she came upon a 7 to 8 foot tall being standing in the middle of a pathway. The witness initially thought that this was two people embracing, but was surprised at the height. She also noticed a sucking and slobbering sound coming from the being. She felt like she was being drawn to the being, as well as feeling a sense of foreboding. Yeah, that's not good. Slobbering and sucking sound and having a feeling of foreboding. The witness grabbed her cell phone in order to capture a photo, but was shocked when the being slowly turned towards her. Overcome with fear, she quickly realized that this was not two people embracing, but a single tall, dark humanoid. The witness got the feeling that it somehow knew that she was going to take a photo and then reacted. She mentioned that she felt like she was being lured towards the humanoid. The being had exceptional broad shoulders and looked like it was wearing a thick black unknown material. The head was human-like, but quite small in size. She was within 15 feet of the being, but never noticed any eyes or facial features. There was enough moonlight available, so she was able to get an excellent look at the being. She immediately took another pathway in order to get away from the being, but soon started to experience intense weakness and fear. She had to sit and gather herself while keeping an eye out for the being. Eventually, she got to her feet and quickly followed another path home. When the witness arrived at her home, she relayed the experience to her son, who recommended that they drive back to the park and see if the being was still there. As they approached, they drove around the location. Then the son noticed a large, dark shadow emerging from and stood up at a nearby bush. He stated that it peered at him, though he didn't see any eyes or face. He just knew that it was watching him and that he was overcome by intense apprehension. They quickly headed home. When they arrived at home, they were both very scared and upset, not knowing what to do. Should they report the incident to the local authorities or remain quiet? Eventually, they went online and found my contact information, which is phantomsandmonsters.com. He says when he talked to the witness, she was shocked at the number of sightings in the Chicago metro area. She had no knowledge of any of the previous incidents. It was quite obvious that she was still very scared and was afraid that the being may know where she lives. So, and there's a picture on there of where it happened, the encounter, and it's just a normal, nice park, nice paved path. Not where you would expect somebody to be lurking around like that. Very, something, I mean, I don't know. It's crazy. There's a note here. It says, the park is a large complex nearby a school and subdivision along Springwood Lane. He asked the witness if the covering may have been membrane-like wings wrapped around the body, in which she acknowledged in the affirmative. Very obviously said from it that she was terrified, whatever she saw. And I would be too. Man, there's something crazy going on up there.
Yeah.
Too many sightings like that. So, all right, let me see. My next one here this is from Cryptozoology News. And the title is, Massachusetts man encounters tiny humanoid. It was tinkering with my clock. This is from Medford, Mass. A Massachusetts man claims he had an encounter of the fifth kind. The man, whose name wasn't revealed, said he was already in bed when he heard his dog crying. The dog was hiding under my bed, he told the Mutual UFO Network, MUFON. I got out of bed to look, but my dog stayed there, not moving, which is not normal for him. The Medford resident says he went downstairs to investigate when he encountered the little purple grayish being tinkering with his kitchen clock. He described the alleged creature as 3 foot tall and kind of human-like. He was standing on my kitchen counter, top touching the clock on my wall. The reported alien, he explains, looked like it was putting the clock back on the wall. Then he continued, the little creature grabbed him by the hand. It walked me to my cellar down the stairs. It didn't say a word. I remember everything went black and forgot everything after. The man says that when he told his family, they didn't believe the story. They said I was dreaming, he said. But, he adds, his mother and her friend had previously claimed to have seen some kind of craft in the backyard years ago. Back in March, a man in Los Angeles... okay, yeah, won't go into that. Well, that's weird. I would have had a huge problem when he grabbed me by the hand and tried to lead me to my cellar. Mm-hmm. But, I mean, he's only 3 foot tall, but that's still, you know. True, yeah. You come in, you see this little guy standing up on your counter, you know.
I'd be pretty curious. I mean, you know, think you see the little thing. You never really hear stories about that, you know, encounters of like small things. It's always big stuff.
Bigfoot, big dog man, aliens, big Mothman, yeah.
You never hear, not very often you hear about little encounters. That'd be pretty
I wonder if UFOs have like little men syndrome, just like laughing at them.
And then they zap you with their antimatter guns.
He's like, here, let me take you by the hand and take you down the stairs. You will not remember what's about to happen to you. They'll probably put cameras in his clock or something, watching him.
Maybe.
That's probably what it was. Some sick experiment. All right, the next one is also from Cryptozoology News. This is I saw this. This is a Bigfoot picture or Sasquatch picture that's been floating around the past couple weeks. Says a BFRO investigator, also known from the Finding Bigfoot TV show, at a Colorado convention last month, released a photo of a bipedal creature in Washington State. The picture, provided to Matt Moneymaker by an undisclosed source, shows a large primate in the middle of thick green vegetation. Moneymaker said he believes the picture could be authentic, and that attendants to the convention claimed to have seen something similar to the alleged creature before. It is not clear why there isn't a video of the purported encounter. So I've seen the picture, and I don't know. I mean, it looks pretty legit. I mean, it's kind of hard nowadays with the technology, what they can do to pictures, but it's definitely something. Looks pretty big, bulky, primate looking, and standing in back in some underbrush and surrounded by trees. And it's kind of got the hunched over, long arms out front, a long arm out in front of it, and it's kind of got the turned torso. You know, they always say Bigfoot don't turn its head; it turns its whole body, because apparently its neck's fused or something. I don't know.
Like an owl.
Yeah.
Doesn't move its eyes; it moves its whole head, but kind of like that.
That's kind of what it looks like it's doing. Like it's looking like, hey, why are you taking a picture of me? I don't have my makeup on. I haven't got dressed yet. I haven't had a bath in like 50 years. Okay, the next one is also from Cryptozoology News. This one's called, the title is, 2 Pennsylvania Women Claim Bigfoot Encounter. This is from July 28, 2017, Cambridge Springs, Pennsylvania. A Pennsylvania woman says she saw 2 Bigfoot beings in Crawford County. Deborah S. of Cambridge Springs told Cryptozoology News it's been a while since she saw the creature, and that she tried telling people from the area, but that they ridiculed her. I just don't say much anymore, she says. I was ridiculed. My friend Angie saw another one the next day. The Pennsylvania resident says she was dropping her brother off at Mark Barnes' place when she came upon the alleged cryptid. As I came up to the end of the dirt road, I was waiting on a truck to pass so I could pull out. I saw something I thought was a bear wobbling back and forth by a telephone pole and road sign. The hominid, she said, was about 9 feet tall and had brown hair. The woman says it stared at her for a few seconds before she decided to drive away. It stepped out from the ditch, took 3 steps across the road. It looked right at me. I was scared and took off with everything that truck had. Deborah goes on to say that the following morning she asked her friend to go with her to investigate the area. We found prints. They were about 14 inches long and about 6 inches wide. There were 5 toes, no claw nails like a bear, just straight toes. I also saw a scratch on the pole where it kind of pushed off to get up on the road. And there was a path with more prints on the other side. We went up Hecker, driving at 5 miles per hour, and I was looking left, and Angie was looking right. She turned towards me to say something, and asked me to pull over. That's when she claims they found one of the creatures up on a tree. It was a small, light-colored one. It looked to be eating apples, and it had something in its hand like a grapevine. I couldn't really tell. The dogs were barking, and it looked to be watching in that direction. We took off. Deborah, who provided a phone number, said she told her brother about the decades-old encounter. We lived on that road as a kid. He told me they saw many, many prints, and that my mom saw a monkey once, she exclaimed. It says the municipality of Cambridge Springs settled in 1822, has a population of 3,000. So it's another interesting one. Sounds pretty legit.
Yeah. You know, some of the encounters, there's a lot of not necessarily like super crazy stuff, but kind of far-fetched stuff, kind of hard to believe stuff, you know.
Yeah.
It jumped from tree to tree, you know, going at 20 miles an hour, you know.
Yeah.
Like it was 8 foot tall and a couple hundred pounds, but it was swinging from tree to tree, you know.
Still, the best one I've ever heard is the one that was like 16 foot tall and lived in the cornfields, and it drank Coors Light.
I don't think I've ever heard that one.
Spirit water.
Oh, that.
Remember that?
Yeah.
So, how did he tell you he liked beer? Well, he told us. Or how did he tell you? He just said, spirit water. Only Coors Light for me. Take that PBR and shove it. So, anyways. So you have anything else to add, buddy?
Mm-mm.
All right. Well, I guess we'll roll right into tonight's episode. Tonight's episode is about a man by the name of G.E. Kincaid. So listen up, listen to it, and give us some feedback. See what you think. Our story begins in Arizona on April 5th, 1909. There was an article that was published in the Arizona Gazette, and I guess the easiest way to start off this story is to basically just read the article in full, so you would understand what we're dealing with here as far as this guy named G.E. Kincaid. I guess the synopsis of it is basically he made a discovery. Supposedly he had worked for the Smithsonian in an indirect fashion, and he made a discovery of a large area, a large cave, and some interesting stuff was found in it. So we'll just go right into the article. Like I said, this is from the Arizona Gazette, April 5th, 1909. You can go online to find this article and look at it. It's a pretty lengthy article, so just bear with us and we'll discuss this a little bit further afterwards. But the article says, explorations in Grand Canyon. Mysteries of immense high cavern being brought to light. Says the latest news of the progress of the explorations of what is now regarded by scientists as not only the oldest archaeological discovery in the United States, but one of the most valuable in the world, which was mentioned some time ago in the Gazette, was brought to the city yesterday by G.E. Kincaid, the explorer who found the great underground citadel of the Grand Canyon during a trip from Green River, Wyoming, down the Colorado in a wooden boat to Yuma several months ago. According to the story related to the Gazette by Mr. Kincaid, the archaeologists of the Smithsonian Institute, which is financing the expedition, have made discoveries which almost exclusively prove that the race which inhabited this mysterious cavern hewn in solid rock by human hands, was of Oriental origin, possibly from Egypt, tracing back to Ramses. If their theories are borne out by the translation of the tablets engraved with hieroglyphics, the mystery of the prehistoric peoples of North America, their ancient arts, who they were and whence they came, will be solved. Egypt and the Nile and Arizona and the Colorado will be linked by a historical chain running back to ages which staggered the wildest fancy of the fictionists. Under the direction of Professor S.A. Jordan, the Smithsonian Institute is now prosecuting the most thorough explorations, which will be continued until the last link in the chain is forged. Nearly a mile underground, about 1,480 feet below the surface, the long main passage has been delved into to find another mammoth chamber from which radiate scores of passageways like the spokes of a wheel. Several hundred rooms have been discovered, reached by passageways running from the main passage, one of them having been explored for 854 feet and another 634 feet. The recent finds include articles which have never been known as native to this country, and doubtless they have their origin in the Orient. War weapons, copper instruments, sharp-edged and hard as steel, indicate the high state of civilization reached by these strange people. So interested have the scientists become that preparations are being made to equip the camp for extensive studies, and the force will be increased to 30 or 40 persons. Mr. Kincaid was the first white child born in Idaho and has been an explorer and hunter all his life, 30 years having been in the service of the Smithsonian Institute. Even briefly recounted, his history sounds fabulous, almost grotesque. First, I would impress that the cavern is nearly inaccessible. The entrance is 1,486 feet down the sheer canyon wall. It is located on government land, and no visitor will be allowed there under penalty of trespass. The scientists wish to work unmolested without fear of archaeological discoveries being disturbed by curio or relic hunters. A trip there would be fruitless, and the visitor would be sent on his way. The story of how I found the cavern has been related, but in a paragraph. I was journeying down the Colorado River in a boat, alone, looking for mineral. Some 42 miles up the river from the El Tovar Crystal Canyon, I saw on the east wall stains in the sedimentary formation about 2,000 feet above the riverbed. There was no trail to this point, but I finally reached it with great difficulty. Above a shelf, which hid it from view from the river, was the mouth of the cave. There are steps leading from this entrance some 30 yards to what was, at the time the cavern was inhabited, the level of the river. When I saw the chisel marks on the wall inside the entrance, I became interested, securing my gun, and went in. During that trip, I went back several hundred feet along the main passage till I came to the crypt in which I discovered the mummies. One of these I stood up and photographed by flashlight. I gathered a number of relics which I carried down the Colorado to Yuma, from whence I shipped them to Washington with details of the discovery. Following this, the explorations were undertaken. The main passageway is about 12 feet wide, narrowing to 9 feet toward the farther end. About 57 feet from the entrance, the first side passages branch off to the right and left, along with which, on both sides, are a number of rooms about the size of ordinary living rooms of today, though some are 30 by 40 feet square. These are entered by oval-shaped doors and are ventilated by round air spaces through the walls into the passages. The walls are about 3 feet 6 inches in thickness. The passages are chiseled or hewn as straight as could be laid out by an engineer. The ceilings of many of the rooms converge to a center. The side passages near the entrance run at a sharp angle from the main hall, but toward the rear they gradually reach a right angle in direction. Over 100 feet from the entrance is the cross hall, 700 feet long, in which are found the idol or image of the people's god, sitting cross-legged with a lotus flower or lily in each hand. The cast of the face is oriental, and the carving this cavern, the idol almost resembles Buddha, though the scientists are not certain as to what religious worship it represents. Taking into consideration everything found thus far, it is possible that this worship most resembles the ancient people of Tibet. Surrounding this idol are similar images, some very beautiful in form, others crooked-necked and distorted shapes, symbolic probably of good and evil. There are 2 large cactus and protruding arms on each side of the dais on which the god squats. All this is carved out of hard rock resembling marble. In the opposite corner of this cross hall were found 2 tools for all descriptions made of copper. In the opposite corner of the cross hall were found tools of all descriptions made of copper. These people undoubtedly knew the lost art of hardening this metal, which has been sought by chemicals for centuries without result. On a bench running around the workroom was some charcoal and other material probably used in the process. There is also slag and stuff similar to mat, showing that these ancients smelted ores. But so far, no trace of where or how this was done has been discovered, nor the origin of the ore. Among the other finds are vases or urns and cups of copper and gold, made very artistic in design. The pottery work includes enameled ware and glazed vessels. Another passageway leads to granaries, such as are found in the Oriental temples. They contain seeds of various kinds. One very large storehouse has not yet been entered, as it is 12 feet high and can be reached only from above. 2 copper hooks extend on the edge, which indicates that some sort of ladder was attached. These granaries are rounded, as the materials of which they are constructed, I think, is a very hard cement. A gray metal is also found in this cavern, which puzzles the scientists, for its identity has not been established. It resembles platinum, strewn promiscuously over the floor everywhere, are what people call cat's eyes, a yellow stone of no great value. Each one is engraved with the head of the Malay type. On all the urns or walls over doorways and tablets of stone which were found by the image are the mysterious hieroglyphs, the key to which the Smithsonian Institute hopes yet to discover. The engraving on the tables probably has something to do with the religion of the people. Similar hieroglyphics have been found in southern Arizona. Among the pictorial writings, only 2 animals are found. One is a prehistoric type. The tomb or crypt in which the mummies were found is one of the largest of the chambers. The walls slanting back at an angle of about 35 degrees. On these are tiers of mummies, each one occupying a separate hewn shelf. At the head of each is a small bench on which is found copper cups and pieces of broken swords. Some of the mummies are covered with clay and all are wrapped in bark fabric. The urns or cups on the lower tiers are crude, while as the higher shelves are reached, the urns are finer in design, showing a later stage of civilization. It is worthy of note that all the mummies examined so far have proved to be male, no children or females being buried here. This leads to the belief that this exterior section was the warriors' barracks. Among the discoveries, no bones of animals have been found, no skins, no clothing, no bedding. Many of the rooms are bare but for water vessels. One room, about 40 feet by 700 feet, was probably the main dining hall, for cooking utensils are found here. What these people lived on is a problem, though it is presumed that they came south in the winter and farmed in the valleys, going back north in the summer. Upwards of 50,000 people could have lived in the caverns comfortably. One theory is that the present Indian tribes found in Arizona are descendants of the serfs or slaves of the people which inhabited the cave. Undoubtedly, a good many thousands of years before the Christian era, a people lived here which reached a high stage of civilization. The chronology of human history is full of gaps. Professor Jordan is much enthused over the discoveries and believes that the find will prove of incalculable value in archaeological work. One thing I have not spoken of may be of interest. There's one chamber of the passageway to which not ventilated, and when we approached it, a deadly, snaky smell struck us. Our light would not penetrate the gloom, and until stronger ones are available, we would not know what the chamber contains. Some say snakes, but other boo-hoo this idea and think it may contain a deadly gas or chemicals used by the ancients. No sounds are heard, but it smells snaky just the same. The whole underground installation gives one of shaky nerves that creeps. The gloom is like a weight on one's shoulders, and our flashlights and candles only make the darkness blacker. Imagination can revel in conjectures and ungodly daydreams back through the ages that have elapsed till the mind reels dizzily in space. In connection with this story, it is notable that among the Hopi Indians, the tradition is told that their ancestors once lived in an underground world in the Grand Canyon till dissension arose between the good and the bad. The people of one heart and the people of two hearts. Macheto, who was their chief, counseled them to leave the underworld, but there was no way out. The chief then caused a tree to grow up and pierce the roof of the underground, and then the people of one heart climbed out. They tarried by Passavi, which is the Colorado, and grew grain and corn. They sent out a message to the Temple of the Sun asking the blessing of peace, goodwill, and rain for people of one heart. That messenger never returned, but today at the Hopi villages at sundown can be seen the old men of the tribe out on the housetops gazing toward the sun looking for the messenger. When he returns, their lands and ancient dwelling place will be restored to them. That is the tradition. Among the engravings of animals in the cave is seen the image of a heart over the spot where it is located. The legend was learned by W. E. Rollins, the artist, during a year spent with the Hopi Indians. There are two theories of the origin of the Egyptians. One is that they came from Asia, another that the racial cradle was in the Upper Nile region. Herein, an Egyptologist believed in the Indian origin of the Egyptians. The discoveries in the Grand Canyon may throw further light on human evolution in prehistoric ages. So, it's interesting that if this discovery is true, there's been, of course, like with anything else, people believe it and some people don't. But As you can imagine, many people try to follow up on that story and that article. And in recent years, there have been a few have reached out to the Smithsonian Institute to inquire. However, the Smithsonian, claims that there's no knowledge of S.A. Jordan and there's no knowledge of G.E. Kincaid or the Egyptian artifacts that were found in the Grand Canyon, or the similar looking to Egyptian artifacts, not necessarily Egyptian artifacts. But one of those inquiries into it got an official response from the Smithsonian, and this is what Smithsonian had to say. It said, the Smithsonian Institution has received many questions about an article in the April 5th, 1909 Phoenix Gazette about G.E. Kincaid and his discovery of a, quote, great underground citadel in the Grand Canyon, hewn by an ancient race of, quote, Oriental origin, possibly from Egypt. The Smithsonian Department of Anthropology has searched its files without finding any mention of a Professor Jordan, Kincaid, or a lost Egyptian civilization in Arizona. Nevertheless, the story continues to be repeated in books and articles. So that was their response. It's an interesting response, and it's funny how the government in situations like this deny any knowledge and then also screw up the facts. So, they say that they don't have any knowledge of basically any of this situation. They don't know who S.A. Jordan is, and they don't know who G.E. Kincaid is, right? So another interesting part of it is they also reference to the Phoenix Gazette instead of what it actually is called, which is the Arizona Gazette. It's almost like they did that intentionally. So, technically they can claim they never lied if this is like some kind of cover-up thing, which people speculate. And I guess, the reason people speculate this is because finding Egyptian stuff or even Indian stuff in the Grand Canyon, it kind of blows out what we've been taught in history, which we already know is false, because you have pre-Columbian history, which is, verified in the U.S. And, so we've found some astounding things that show there was people here before Columbus. So it is also interesting to note that G.E. Kincaid has allegedly been working for the Smithsonian for 30 years, yet they claim to have no knowledge of him. Some claim that this is because technically he did not actually work for the Smithsonian, but rather worked for Professor Jordan. However, Professor Jordan worked for the Smithsonian, and they claim to have no recollection of him. Kincaid, he referred to El Tovar in relation to where the cave was located. El Tovar, I guess, is not a region in the Grand Canyon, but there's a hotel that was that is there in the close to the south rim of the Grand Canyon. That hotel opened in 1905, so it makes it a viable reference point if that's what he's talking about. And where that hotel is, it's just upriver a few miles is where I believe it's referred to Crystal Canyon. Yeah, he also uses Crystal Canyon in reference to the location. Crystal Canyon is most likely refers to the canyon where Crystal Creek runs and comes down to meet the Colorado River. This is within proximity, like I said, of the El Tovar Hotel. It's about 10 to 15 miles away by river. Kincaid, he claimed that the cave was 2,000 feet above the Colorado River and 1,486 feet below the rim of the Grand Canyon. In that area where he was at. So nobody really knows exactly where this was at. It was supposed to be 42 miles from, I guess, upriver from where El Tovar was. And if he's referring to that hotel, you get approximate area, that's 42 miles north of that, up the river. So it was 2,000 feet above the Colorado River, and it was 1,486 feet below the rim of the Grand Canyon in that area. So, in that section of the canyon, there's an area called I'm going to probably butcher this, but it's Quagunt Rapids. It's Kwagunt. The distance from the river there to the rim ranges about 3,300 feet in that area, which puts Kincaid's estimates only about 200 feet off in this area. So it's not bad. It's just a good chance that that is, if this whole story is legit, then that part is legit there, and it could very well be the area where he's speaking of. So now you get to debunkers, people that don't believe this, and of course you got it with everything. You got Roswell, you got conspiracy theories about JFK. You got anything, just about anything dealing with the government. There's some kind of conspiracy theory that spins off of it, and with that, you have to take everything with a grain of salt, and no difference with this. So people do, that people don't just take that article as basically because there's been no follow-up. It's like this was reported back to Smithsonian. Well, there's no relics. The Smithsonian claims to have no knowledge of it. And those two guys, Professor Jordan and Kincaid, they both are basically gone. After this article, you don't hear, there's not supposedly any history of them. So, you got debunkers. What can I say? So, throughout the years since, the article was published in April of 1909, many people have questioned the article, with its publishing being so close to April 1st, because it was published April 5th, 1909. Many have claimed this is just basically a belated April Fool's joke. However, if you're going to go through the effort to publish such a hoax, why would you wait 4 days later unless that was part of the deal to make it seem more real? I don't know. Many have found issues with the fact that throughout the article, the Smithsonian Institute is referred to as the Smithsonian Institution, which is not the actual name of the organization. Personally, I've referred to it both ways on many occasions. I've been to many of their museums in Washington, so I have a hard time accepting it as a valid point. Maybe I don't know. Maybe there is something to that because it's a newspaper. But it's the turn of the century. You're in Arizona. I don't know. I still have a problem accepting it as a valid point for discounting the article as a hoax. So another claim by those on the hoax bandwagon is that a claim by the Smithsonian that they have no record of G. Kincaid or S.A. Jordan. This seems odd, which it does seem odd, which is such an esteemed research and discovery organization. However, there have been many instances of government cover-ups. The situation is not any different. I mean, schools taught us that in 1492 Columbus sailed the ocean blue, and that he was the first person to step foot on the Americas, outside of the native people who came here through the land bridge, thousands of years before that. So the repercussions that come along with admitting that for generations the history of this country have been relayed or taught to us incorrectly would be huge. It's kind of this big huge egg in the face for one thing. Not only that, the fact that you have admitted that you were wrong, but what about the culture from which the natives of this country potentially originated? We would basically let some foreign country know that their peoples were the first ones here. It potentially set up a case of, a country trying to claim land from the U.S. Who knows? Probably not, since we're, superpower, but still you're opening a big can of worms with that. So, also the truth of this discovery would show that people 3,000 years ago, at least for the society that would have made it to the Grand Canyon, were more technologically advanced than has been understood previously. And in that number 3,000 years ago, the reason that came up is, like he said, there were steps leading away from that cave entrance. So looking historically, that river, where it would have been to meet the steps, so the steps went out 30 yards, went down 30 yards, I guess, from the entrance to the cave. 3,000 years ago, that's where the river would have been. So that's where that 3,000 year timestamp came from. And the fact that there's no information on Kincaid or Jordan after the article from April 5th, 1909, it's another sign of a hoax by the debunking crowd. It does seem odd, but if you're going to cover up a huge discovery like this, if it is something conspiratorial, then you would also have to basically keep those guys quiet because they were the ones that discovered it. So I don't know. So the claim is that obviously this was a hoax if these two individuals were never talked about again. So obviously they were not real people. The thought is that they were fictional characters developed just for the article. However, at least for Kincaid, he's referred to an article a month earlier. The article is also published in the Arizona Gazette, and it actually comes from March 12th, 1909 in the Arizona Gazette, and the title of it is G.E. Kincaid Reaches Yuma. G.E. Kincaid of Lewiston, Idaho, arrived in Yuma after a trip from Green River, Wyoming, down the entire course of the Colorado River. He is the second man to make this journey and came alone in a small skiff, stopping at his pleasure to investigate the surrounding country. He left Green River in October, having a small covered boat with oars and carrying a fine camera, with which he secured over 700 views of the river and canyons, which were unsurpassed. Mr. Kincaid says one of the most interesting features of the trip was passing through the sluiceways at Laguna Dam. He made this perilous passage with only the loss of an oar. So that was the article from March 12th, 1909. So here you have a month before almost where G.E. Kincaid is referenced in the Arizona Gazette. So if this was a hoax, the article from April 5th where he supposedly found this underground citadel in the canyon was a hoax, then obviously they had the forethought to, a month before to publish a small article, showing him arriving in town from this, adventurous float down the Colorado River from Wyoming. I don't know. I guess there's a possibility that the first article in March 1909 was a way to validate the second article and make things seem legit. If it were a hoax, that'd be a very premeditated hoax for sure. And but I guess it could be possible. It's a lot of some planning there but it could be done. I mean, probably be the best way to really make a hoax feel real, at least. As for Jordan and Kincaid being completely fabricated, since there was no record of them, I guess that's possible also. However, I did myself do some research on the census records of Lewiston, Idaho, where Kincaid claimed to be from. And there were many Kincaids found. There's a lot of Kincaid names. There's a lot of people found. Unfortunately, I don't know who George E. Kincaid is. G.E. Kincaid. I don't know if it's George or I'm imagining it's George. I did find quite a few Georges. Most of them were the couple that I can remember off the top of my head were G and a K. G.K. Kincaid. I don't know. But it makes the case that there was potentially him being real, because there was a number of Kincaids from Idaho, and there was at least one or two family groups. I believe one family of Kincaids in Lewiston that was from the census records in the late 1800s. So I don't know, unless the person that wrote this knew there was Kincaids there. I don't know. I mean, that would be part of a very elaborate hoax, but I don't know if they wrote a article, March to prepare for the big one in April. That was quite a bit of preparing too. So, some other interesting information though. Many sites within the Grand Canyon have, for some reason, Egyptian and Indian names. And I'm talking about India, the country, not Indians like Native Americans. One of these being the Isis Temple, ISIS Temple. Isis Temple is a rock pyramid that can be viewed from the south rim of the Grand Canyon. It's obviously handmade from surrounding rock. Here are some other sites that are all in the vicinity of Isis Temple with either Egyptian or Hindu names. So I'm probably going to butcher these, but I'll read them off here. We got Isis Temple, Osiris, Tower of Set, Horus, Cheops Pyramid, Ra, Holy Grail, King Arthur's Castle, Excalibur, Guinevere Castle, Elaine Castle, Masonic Temple, Freya Castle, or Freya, Dragon Head, Little Dragon, Thor Temple, Zoroaster Temple, Manu Temple, Buddha Temple, Diva Temple, Confucius Temple, Krishna Temple, Angel's Gate, Solomon Temple, Shiva Temple, Tabernacle, Roma Shrine, Brahma Temple, Vishnu Temple, Shiva Temple, Vesta Temple, Diana Temple, Apollo Temple, Venus Temple, Jupiter Temple, Juno Temple, Pollux Temple, Castor Temple. And it's been explained that these names were given by explorers that found them or found their locations. They claimed to name them after the deities that they had interest in. I mean, this may be a legitimate explanation, but it seems kind of odd that they would all. There's not one that's called Harry's Temple or something like that. So it's I don't know. I don't know if I could go. Maybe a few of them, but I wouldn't say all of these are just. That's just what the explorer decided to name them. I don't know. It's interesting. There's a guy named Carl Monk who's done quite a bit of research, and you have to check him out. I'm not going to go into great detail about it, but basically his name's Carl Monk. It's M-U-N-C-K. You can go search for him. There's a lot of websites and information about his research, but he did a bunch of research towards the end of the 20th century on the Isis Temple, and he supposedly discovered a mathematical system which relates the location of the Grand Canyon's Isis Temple with that of the Great Pyramids, and that being that both of the sites line up with star systems. And based on his research, he has determined that the Isis Temple must be a significant archaeological site. And like I said, there's a lot of information about what he did, and I'm not going to go into it here because that's like a whole another ball of wax. But basically, it's still a mystery, and there's a lot of people that say G.E. Kincaid's fabricated. The whole thing is a hoax. But there have been people who have supposedly or think they have found the entrance to this cave hiking, and there was a book. I wish I should have wrote down the name of it, but these two hikers supposedly found what they believe is the entrance to this cavern or this citadel, and they claimed it was just sealed up, that they found a number of entrances and they were all sealed up, and it looked very deliberate. So it wasn't all natural like rock cave in or something. They were very deliberately sealed shut. A number of people have inquired to the National Park Service, which owns the land that the cavern system supposedly on there. And, they claim that you have to have a backcountry pass or whatever, special pass, because it's a very treacherous area where this is located. However, they don't approve it for anybody. They won't let anybody go in there. So it's a big red flag for me, If you're, if this exists and you can have the possibility to get a pass to go in there, but they won't give it to you. The things look like they're deliberately sealed up, if this is legitimately the caves. This is a lot of, I can see it from both ways, but I could understand the reasons why this, it sounds like a fantastic discovery. I mean, and no matter what it is, I mean, maybe it's just the natives that live there. Maybe this is actually stuff that their ancient ancestors did. I don't know. But it's interesting that the Hopi Indians in that area, they have an oil or in their history, there's a story of the underground, the underworld, and there's a lot of things that match up between what G.E. Kincaid supposedly found and what the Hopi have in their history. So, I mean, it might be just a case of this is the Hopi Indian underworld that they spoke of in their story, and this is where those people lived, if that's legitimate and not, some fantastical historical thing. I mean, you hear in all kinds of cultures, you hear these fantastical historical accounts of different things that sound too good to be true or unrealistic, but usually in all of those stories, there's some level of truth, and maybe that's what this is. Maybe this is, the Hopi talked about the underworld and how good and evil, the separation of the culture and stuff, and one of them came out. Maybe that's what this is, but it's interesting that, if they did live in those caverns, that there was not a lot of, there was no bedding, no stuff that you would expect if 50,000 people are living in this citadel, underground citadel. You got to live. I mean, you got to sleep, and it's interesting what happened, to those people. Why is this thing abandoned? It almost seems like it was something that was built to store stuff, and maybe they stayed there while they were doing it and then left again. I don't know. It's a very interesting story. It's very fascinating. And if it is a cover-up, it's very sad. It's very sad that such a cool thing, a cool discovery like this would be just swept under the rug. And that being said, that if that's the case, then something probably not so good happened to these guys that found it. I don't know. So anyways, that's the story of G. Kincaid, and look, it's one of those things. We'll keep an eye on it. Maybe one day some more information will be discovered about it, but it'd be interesting, if he took pictures, as he says, in those caves of some of the items. You suspect that those pictures are floating around somewhere, and maybe one day somebody will discover their long lost Uncle George, was G. Kincaid, or great grandfather was G. Kincaid, and they have some of his belongings or something. But chances are it probably never happened. But at least it would help establish the truth, some truth to the story. Anyways, That is G.E. Kincaid. All right, everybody. Hope you enjoyed that episode about G.E. Kincaid and the supposed discovery in the Grand Canyon. It was a very interesting story, so I thought you guys might like it. As usual, unexplained.reality@yahoo.com. Don't be afraid. Send us a message. Anything. If you just want to say hey, if you want to tell us something that you'd like to hear, any suggestions. In fact, we heard from somebody today through Instagram. We heard somebody last week, and it's great getting these suggestions because we can run all day long with what we want to do, but we like to hear what people think, and a lot of times you guys are giving us suggestions of stuff we hadn't even thought about doing, so it's great. And we might not get around to it right away because we do have like a list of stuff, and it does take a little bit of time to research this stuff, so but throw us a suggestion, unexplained.reality@yahoo.com, and we'll add it to the list and get to it eventually. Also, if you want to, if you have an encounter or an experience that you want to talk about and maybe have us interview you on the show, that would be great. Hit us up. You can also catch us on Facebook. Like I said, we're going to the new group on Facebook. It's set up. So just go to Facebook and look for Unexplained Reality Group, or you can do it at Google and it'll take you to us. And just hit join and it'll send us a request and we'll approve it and you'll be in like Flynn. You'll be in with all the cool people.
Mm-hmm. Cool Kids Club.
Yeah, no more getting beat up at lunch, getting your lunch money taken. And so there, you can hit us on Instagram, on Twitter. We got the YouTube channel set up where everything uploads automatically to that now. And if you feel like throwing a couple pennies at us, help produce the podcast, because it does cost us some money every month to do it. Patreon, there's a link to our Patreon in the show notes, and on PayPal you can just use unexplained.reality@yahoo.com to send us moolah, sweet moolah. I think, is that all we got?
I think so, yeah.
All right, well, I guess we'll roll out of here for this week, and we'll catch you next week. But before we go, check out rickyyoung.com. Go buy some of his music. You'll enjoy it. He's a local guy, so you're helping support the great state of South Carolina, and specifically a fellow South Carolinian. We'd like to thank our favorite podcasts, Sasquatch Chronicles, Into the Fray Radio, OK Talk, Sasquatch, Mysterious Universe, The Graylian Report, The Confessionals, Monsters Among Us, Somewhere in the Skies, The Cryptid Factor. Is there another one I'm missing?
Make sure you check out cryptidcrate.com.
Oh yeah, cryptidcrate.com. Yeah, and actually, that is Derek from Monsters Among Us. He has the Cryptid Crate, and he does the Monsters Among Us podcast. So check both of those out. Awesome, very nice guy. So definitely go check out Cryptid Crate if you love this subject. Go get you a subscription, and you'll get some cool stuff delivered to you every month. Very cool. And I think is that it?
Yeah.
Hopefully we didn't miss anybody. All right. Well, you guys have a good week, and we'll see you next week with something new and fascinating, mind-boggling.
A paragraph on a piece of paper, held by a magnet on the refrigerator, said it all. You can't change the mind of an 18-year-old. Cloud of dust coming from a Gran Torino, taking off. Population, one less restless soul, runaway too below. Gone, make yourself a too low. Highway 61 underneath your wheels. Summer sun burning up the cotton fields in the Bible Belt. A sharecropper shack from another town. Old rusted out Coca-Cola sign on the sad motel. The ghost of Robert Johnson says hello. Run away too low. Gone, make yourself a memory. It's boiling like gravity underneath your skin. You can't turn around and go back again. Free, rolling like the river winds. What's ahead of what you leave behind? Just make it up as you go. Run away too low. Nobody's gonna care if it don't matter where. Any road can take you there. Gone, make yourself a memory. It's polar like gravity underneath your skin. You can't turn around and go back again. Free, rolling like the river winds. What's ahead of what you leave behind? Just make it up as you go. Run away.